Hello and welcome to Crushing Comics. I'm your host Peter, and this is a new show that I'm so far calling Shelve. This is a new show that I'm so far calling Shelve, Store, or Sell. I'm coming to you here from Wellington, New Zealand, where I have a lot of comic books. And while you've seen many of them on this channel, there are 140 short boxes still that you haven't seen me explicitly talk about. Maybe one or two over the course of a haul, but not all together. And I have currently about 15 and a half of these square shelves left after the last episode of what we're going to shelve. And that's how much space I have for these 140 boxes of books to put on display. So the big question is, what gets put on display? And we're gonna look at a new box today. Before we do though, I just mentioned hauls, and you've watched me do some hauls on this channel. And I've been thinking a lot about haul culture, not just in terms of comic books, but just like YouTube in general. It's a really popular thing, right? It's really interesting because it was starting to feel to me, I mean, I'm gonna buy the things that I buy anyway. I know what I'm interested in buying: Marvel Masterworks, Epics, and X-Men hardcovers. That's pretty much my life at this point. I'm not buying a lot of comics other than those because I know what I'm after and I know what I've got already in these boxes. I just don't know what's in what box. But it was starting to feel a little bit like I was paying a fee in order to be able to do a video for you. And then the box would get here and I would stare at the box and go, I can't open the box because I've got to do a video. Now there's probably some channels that rely on a lot of advertising revenues and things where like they literally have to do a video because of the box, but it was getting to the point for me where I was not even appreciating what was in the box that I was opening because I was so focused on having to video them. That's kind of what drove me to do this series. I could just keep posting hauls. I make between 8 and 12 orders a year from in-stock trades in the United States, but I thought it would be so much more interesting to go back through and appreciate what I already have in storage, some of which I haven't appreciated since it's been packed in 2017 and some of it from way before that. So the box that I have today, I actually have appreciated this one a little bit more recently because it was part of what was shelved off to my right when we shot videos in the old room, because I did have all of my indie collections, and this is modern indie authors A through E. So anybody who is a prominent enough author that I would think, oh, I want the book by Brian Michael Bendis, I know where that is, rather than an indie author who maybe I don't know the name of and I only know the book. So let's see what's in the box. Up first, we have Torso, a true crime. I don't know. Is it grime? I don't really know what that is. No, let's try again. Torso, a true crime graphic novel by Brian Bendis. Now, we all know if we've watched this channel for some time, I don't really like Brian Bendis that much. I can tell you that I got this on sale from IST in stock trades for like $3 at some point, and it's a $24 book. So I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm interested in what people's first works were. Like, how did they get so popular? Why did they get the platform that they got? I'm super fascinated by that. So from that perspective, I just wanted it. But, and I can read it at any time. It's really cool black and white art. He does some really neat collage stuff where like there's photographs in here, but there's also drawings. And this is, he did not draw this. This is drawn by Mark Andreyko, who is still in the game to this day. But I don't see this as something that I'm like, ooh, let me run to my shelf and read it. I know what box it's in if I ever want to read it. So that's not a shelf. We'll just put that back down here. Okay, let's see what's next. This is called Butterfly. It is by Arash Amel, who, if I recall, did the concept, and then Marguerite Bennett. It was okay. I don't even remember the specifics of what it was about. I remember thinking it was fine, but I like probably wasn't ever gonna reread it. And at the time I was thinking I was gonna maybe buy a lot of Marguerite Bennett stuff because I like to support women in comics. But I've read a lot of Marguerite Bennett stuff since then, and I think it is totally fair to say I do not really enjoy her writing, which is fine. That's part of having more women in comics, is that I'm gonna not like some of them. It's a privilege to have enough women in comics that I can definitively say I do not like some of them. So this is a sell. I don't know if anybody's gonna buy it in New Zealand. If you're in New Zealand and you wanna read Butterfly, let me know. It was fine, but I'm probably never gonna reread it. So next up, now we're into Brubaker. And this is only gonna be non-oversized Brubaker, because I do have some oversized Brubaker. This is the Fade Out. And I think this is gonna go on the shelf. It's a cool kind of like noir-y old Hollywood book. And I remember I started reading Volume 1 when I first got it, which would have been back in the States, and I actually really, really liked it. And I said, Oh, I kind of like to just wait for it to come out, because I think we knew at that point it was only going to be a pretty brief, limited series. And so I just waited to get all three. Now, there is a nice hardcover of this, but I have bought Brubaker hardcovers in the past and not super been into them. I love his writing. I just don't, the kind of noir-y stuff works for me sometimes, it doesn't other times. So I think this is going to go on the shelf, partially because it's just got such attractive spines, but partially because I really just want to read it and see if it's something I want to upgrade. And then if I upgrade, maybe I would sell it. Let's see what's next. Speaking of which, Velvet, there's another one that I'm pretty sure there are oversized hardcovers of by Brubaker. This is Brubaker with Epting, who I really love Steve Epting ever since he was on Avengers in the leather jacket era back in the 90s. And I mean, it's a female spy protagonist. You know, it's so up my alley. It could not be more up my alley. And I've just never read it yet. So I think we're going to put it on the shelf to encourage me to read it. Oh, this is going on the shelf. Okay, so this is Semi-Automagic. It's by Alexi DeCampi and Jerry Ordway, classic artists who drew, I think, a lot of Superman in the 90s. I want to say Death of Superman, maybe? I don't know. We know DC's not really my jam. But this was a book that was released by Dark Horse, and you can see the little Dark Horse logo on the spine there. But this is the Kickstarter edition. So the second book here was only from the Kickstarter. It's in this gorgeous slipcase. It's really nice. It's like as nice as the Absolute slipcases, and it's really pleasing to hold. And it's a lot like Black Magic, if you've read that series by Rucka and Nicola Scott. It's kind of like a investigatory detective lady who also does magic. And I read the official Dark Horse book and really, really liked it. And then I didn't read the secondary book. And this was right when I started keeping track of all my reads in 2017. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. DeCampi, I sometimes like her and sometimes don't. I'm not always in it, but I think she has really cool ideas for the medium. She's really an awesome idea person. So this is going on the shelf. It's a cool artifact. And I know that I like it already. And I would sit down and reread it at this very instant. So that's exactly the kind of stuff we're looking for. Oh, speaking of things that we're looking for. Okay, so maybe we'll do this whole next author because I have a lot by him, and then maybe we'll cut, I don't know. There's no plan yet. I don't really know what the plan is. So this is Mike Carey. Mike Carey, of course, I first met him because he wrote X-Men Legacy during that whole era of Rogue being an X-Men Legacy. But I also know Mike Carey because he's the author of The Girl with All the Gifts, and also the author of this series, which I think I started around the same time I was reading Legacy, which is Unwritten. Unwritten is really, really clever. It's kind of like if Harry Potter was happening in the real world. If by Harry Potter existing as a book, it affected the real world, and if other things existing as books influenced the real world, which is a very kind of like Neil Gaiman, Sandman sort of concept. And this was one of those books where I read as soon as it arrived every time. So I've definitely read all of these 4 volumes for sure, not a doubt in my mind. And there's a lot more in this box. I wish it was going to come out in an oversized format. I think maybe they did like 1 book and then it didn't get picked up, but I have the whole thing. It goes through number 11, and then there was this one standalone hardcover, and I would love to read the whole thing all in one run. It's on my list, actually. I have a list of like runs I want to read, and that's high on my list. And I love Mike Carey, so that is absolutely going on my shelf. Here's the next Mike Carey thing. This is one of my favorite series of all time. It is Suicide Risk. It's from Boom Studios. I think I did a video. I did a video, and the artist, Elena Casagrande, who's amazing, actually commented on the video, which is so cool. It's like not why I do these things, and people are just people. But it's neat to see somebody say, oh, cool, you appreciated me. You should go watch the video. This series is amazing. You don't have to track down the trades. Actually, one of them, I think volume 5, is really hard to track down. Just read it on like Comixology or whatever, but it's really, really good. It's interesting because it came out at the same time as Marvel Now was happening, and like Hickman's whole Avengers with the incursions and stuff, and it shares some interesting conceptual work with that without spoiling it. So it's kind of interesting to see a take on that stuff outside of Marvel's universe. So good. One of my highest recommendations. Read it cold. It's about superheroes and the balance between good and evil, and I could not possibly spoil it for you because it's so fun to find out. by yourself. I also have this one other random carry book that I got on sale from Amazon, Sigil Out of Time. It was all Marvel briefly was publishing cross-gen, and I don't have any other cross-gen books, but I just bought it because it's my carry and I like my carry. Plus it's also illustrated by Leonard Kirk, who I really like. So if we're gonna put all this other carry stuff on the shelf, I guess we're gonna put down this, oh, there's like a whole box. There's only 15 and a half. Okay, are we gonna do the rest of this box? I think we're gonna pause there. We're gonna pause there. These are not meant to be like omnibus length episodes. So far, we just did half a box. I'm putting one thing back in the box, and I'm potentially selling one thing. This is gonna be a long series. This is gonna be a long series of 140 boxes, especially if I'm gonna have to argue over the space as it fills up. Yeah, so this has been, gosh, what is it called? Shelve, store, or sell. Shelve, store, sell. Doesn't really, it's like a she sells seashells by the seashore kind of thing, isn't it? This has been another episode of Shelve, Store, or Sell, and I'll be back with the rest of this box. It's box 1103, and it is Modern Indie Authors A through E. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Peter, and this has been Crushing Comics.